thank you for these people, Father, that took the extra mile, Lord, to help others. And we pray today, Lord, they make a difference in people's lives, Lord. We stay open eyes, Father. Make us realize, Lord, that we can all do more, Lord. God, we thank you, Lord, for these people, and Father, we pray, Lord, you'll bless them, Father, for this meeting today, Lord. And we're glad, Lord, we keep Jesus in the middle of it, Lord, in the forefront of it. God, we love you today, and we praise you, and we glorify you, Lord. Lord, these precious things we have. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Hello. Dr. Charlotte Watkins graduated in 2015 with her doctorate in psychiatric nursing, and her doctoral research is in human trafficking. Previous to earning her doctorate, Dr. Watkins worked as a forensic nurse examiner and has conducted 2,000 sexual assault exams and 1,500 forensic interviews of children and adults. Dr. Watkins was the first nationally certified sexual assault nurse examiner in Arkansas. Currently, Dr. Watkins is the owner of Watkins Family Health and Counseling and is very passionate about her clinical practice and healing her patients. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Dr. Charlotte Watkins.
We're going to start out with a video, and this is actually two of the videos are actually trafficking recently that happened in Northwest Arkansas. So let's start with the video.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News at 6.
Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Alexandra Burnley. Federal authorities say 5 victims have been rescued after a human trafficking operation bust in Northwest Arkansas. 5 News reporter Lauren Spencer is live at the federal courthouse with more details from this sting. Lauren.
Federal authorities are calling this Operation Rolling Fire. The goal, finding and prosecuting people committing sexual crimes against children, and it resulted in 5 people arrested. The Homeland Security Investigations Unit in Fayetteville led this 3-day operation. About 20 local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies across Northwest Arkansas assisted. According to HSI, 3 human trafficking victims were rescued, along with 2 children they say were endangered. As for the 5 people arrested, they now face child exploitation charges. The Arkansas State Police says it's important for them to identify victims of sexual assault and help them find a different path. Live in Fayetteville, covering news where you live, Lauren Spencer, 5 News.
Monty Rattler appeared by video at the courthouse from here at the Washington County Detention Center, actually, and he was read his rights and a list of 8 different charges, and he'll do it all again during his arraignment on January 12th. Fayetteville's Regency 7 Motel right off I-49 is where Fayetteville police say they arrested 20-year-old Amani Rattler on Saturday.
Our detectives here at Fayetteville had been searching for the suspect. There was a warrant entered for his arrest in relations to rape charge and trafficking of a person's charge.
Rattler, who's now behind bars at the Washington County Detention Center, was also charged with other criminal activity in both Springdale and Fayetteville. It includes theft, drug and firearm possession, fleeing, as well as trafficking or involuntary servitude.
Trafficking of a person could be something along the lines of prostitution, is what I'm guessing that charge is.
Sergeant Murphy says Rattler had drugs and a loaded firearm in his motel room. He says there was another unidentified person with him. Rattler was listed as homeless on his detainee profile.
I would guess that the suspect probably bounces from hotel to motel if he doesn't have a physical address.
Rattler will be arraigned in Washington County Court on January 12th. It's then a judge will formally read the 20-year-old a very long list of charges.
Well, we do see a lot of younger adults that are caught up in getting the criminal justice system, and it is sad to see someone that age get arrested, but it does happen.
Fayetteville police say Rattler did not resist arrest, but his firearm was loaded. And again, he'll be back in court for his formal arraignment on January 12th. We're live at the Washington County Detention Center. Paul Petit, 4029 News.
So, you don't have to raise your hand. How many of you have known someone that was abused sexually? And the trauma that causes. To me, it is the worst violation there is. Now, it can be healed. It can be healed through Jesus, competent counseling, and advocacy. That's how we heal it. When I first started in this work, like Andy said, when I was starting in forensic work, I'll never forget this case that I worked on. I was working with Dr. Mark Thomas, and these kids come in. And it was a 12-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl, and they were brother and sister. So we were going to do the forensic medical exam on them, collect any evidence. And the little boy had a book, and he held on to that book. He wouldn't let go of it. So what happened was his mother married some political figure in Benton County, some big political figure at that time. Now, this has been a little while back. And her new husband, was sexually assaulting both children. He was making them sexually assault each other, and he was taping it and selling it, and selling the children. The children went and told their mother what he was doing, and their mother didn't believe him. So the kids got up the courage to write a letter and give it to their teacher. And the teacher gave it to the school counselor. And that's how it got reported to the Arkansas State Police Crimes Against Children. And that's how they got to us. That case went to trial. He was convicted. He did get time. The children were taken away from their mother, and they were adopted by some family members. So this is a huge problem in society. Sexual abuse, emotional abuse of children, adolescents. And then, to me, another layer of evil comes on when we start looking at trafficking. When we start looking at people who are selling their children. They are selling them for sex and drugs. They're being taped. These children get into pornography rings. They are used in pornography. And so this is a grave problem in our community, and we're all here because we're very passionate about this, and we want to make a difference in Northwest Arkansas. So in my role would be identification, reporting, and medical and psychiatric treatment if a victim comes to me. So when I was at UT Memphis, my doctoral research was human sex trafficking. And the whole thing was we wanted to get healthcare providers to identify, report, and treat. And many healthcare providers, they don't want to hear about this. They don't want to talk about it. And they need to know how to screen for it, and so do you. And so that's kind of our goal. When they get to me, I'm going to be doing medical treatment, in particular looking at is there any untreated STDs or any medical conditions that they have that we need to get treated because that can permanently damage the reproductive system. then they can do their counseling with me, or maybe they want to be referred out to another counselor. My clinic is faith-based, and so I try to incorporate that. And I think that's really important, the spiritual aspect of healing, and then dealing with the PTSD, the complex PTSD, and trying to get them healed. So I do some of that through cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and then we do EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So that's just a big word for expedited trauma treatment. It works. It's amazing. And so we do that at the clinic. Now, if they come to us, another great thing they're going to get is they're going to get advocacy. And Andy, who runs my clinic, who's also my niece, by the way, she runs my clinic and she does advocacy. And so she'll be talking about that today. But they're going to get advocacy with her. And we have several patients now that have been in some extremely horribly abusive situations. And Andy is doing their advocacy, and I'm doing their medication management and their therapy. Okay, next slide. All right, I'd like to introduce Detective Kevin Harrison, who's retired from Benton County. And Kevin was with the Benton County Sheriff's Department for many years. And he and I became friends this year. He reached out and we both share the passion for this work. He has visited the clinic several times, and we've discussed lots of things about resources and things that need to be done. But today, Detective Harrison is going to be answering some really important questions. And the first one is, can you please discuss what sex trafficking is and the depth of the problem of sex trafficking in Northwest Arkansas?
Yes. Can y'all hear me? Yes. Okay. Human trafficking is a situation of exploitation, threatening or promising something of value. Because when you're dealing with adults, it may take threats, it may take drugs. You're dealing with kids, you're promising them something. So it kind of encompasses a lot there. Anybody that engages in sex with a minor is trafficking. Whether you're engaging in the performance of sex or if you are the person providing that child, that is sex trafficking. There is no worse crime out there, in my opinion. Where does human trafficking occur? Well, we just saw it occurs right here at home, right? It occurs in every country in this world, every country. It covers every state in the United States. Big cities, small towns, it affects your children, your grandchildren. It can be adults, it can be many. You have so broad of a range on that. So if I get my phone to cooperate with me, boys and young men are trafficked just like women are, and little girls. So don't ever think that just because you have a son that they cannot be this victim, because they can't. It happens. It happens every day in every state. It's a myth that human trafficking victims don't know the persons that's trafficking them. Lots of times it's people in trust. Can be a friend of the family, a father, a brother, a cousin. It could be a teacher, it could be a doctor. It can be many things. Evil, as you know, takes shapes of many things. So you just have to be cautious and never take it for granted that if your kid comes to you and tells you that there's something going on with a teacher, don't just blow it off as not true. You know, it's always worth investigating. Let the authorities take it and run with it, and let them determine what it is. Our job is to listen. Number one thing is to listen what they have to say. Watch for the way any changes in them, you know, that's important. So I'm not going to take up a whole lot of time because we're all sharing time here, but it's important that we break the cycle. And the only way we break the cycle is we pay attention to each and every person, watch, learn what to look for. You know, it may not be your family, maybe it's your best friend's family, or maybe it's someone you go to church with as family, and you see them somewhere out. You got to watch, and you got to do your part to fight this, because law enforcement doesn't have the resources to beat it all. They just don't. So it takes an army to do it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over.
Hello, welcome everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. My name is John Bays. I'm a retired detective from the NYPD, the Manhattan Special Victims Squad. You know, when I was in that squad, we investigated rape, child abuse, serial rape, and sometimes even sexual homicides. So there was, you know, some pretty brutal crimes there. I've been retired for a while, but I've handled cases that were human trafficking, because human trafficking, the definition includes what we used to think of as, say, the pimp prostitute relationship, if you will. That is considered now human trafficking, whether they leave the state or not, it doesn't matter. So I wanted to explain to you something. I think that what I could bring to you is that if you do come in contact with the victim, or somebody discloses to you that they've been trafficked, you know, or they're being prostituted out, which is still trafficking, there's a lot of trust that has to be gained from that person to get information, and, you know, to at some point get that person to make a decision to go forward to the authorities, because it takes a lot, because, you know, they fear that they're going to get arrested and so forth. So what I want to do is just share a short case that I had that might explain to you not only how I work, but how a person who's not even law enforcement can work as well, and treat the victim well. My motto has always been treat any victim I have as a family member, father, mother, you know, daughter, son, sister, brother, whatever it may be. That's the way that I'm going to treat them, because that's a couple things happen if you do that. Number one, you're going to want to get the right guy. You're not just getting some guy, because now you're treating this as a family member. You're going to want to get the right guy. Secondly, you're going to want to do it legally, because you don't want any kind of mistrial, or you don't want it not to be prosecuted. And you know, what you do want is you will then investigate this case very completely. You will look at each nook and cranny of your case. You will turn over every rock you can to solve these cases. And what I've always said is I have my victims. Now they're called survivors, I understand, but back in the day when I was working, they were my victims, okay? I took care of them. I notified them. If I had, every week or whatever, I would notify them. I would contact them. And I would make sure that they knew that their case was important, whether they were from a wealthy neighborhood, white, black, Hispanic, it didn't matter. I treated the cases the same with my all. I gave it my all. And so just to let you know, that's my credo. That's how detectives should work. A lot of people say detach yourself. It doesn't help. You become lazy if you detach yourself. So detectives should not detach themselves from the case. You'll have a full investigation if you have that in your heart that victim could be your mother, your sister, your brother, and it worked for me. And there were times where victims were called in the middle of the night by some other police officer to look at a photo lineup, and they'd ask, if I was going to be there. And when they were told no, they said, well, I'm not going. I'll wait till he's in. That's the trust you develop. Now, the police department wasn't too happy about it. We did show it the lineup. The guy wasn't picked out, but they weren't too happy about it. But that's the relationship you build. So let's get to my story, and I'll try to be brief here. Being from New York, I like to tell a lot of stuff, so, but I'll try to make this brief. When I was in the Special Victims Squad, I got a call from New Jersey that they had what they felt was a prostitute over there who was brutally raped at gunpoint in New York and then taken over into New Jersey through the Lincoln Tunnel, and then was thrown out of the moving car that was going like 40 miles an hour. Luckily, she didn't suffer any major injuries or anything like that. So now I have to go over there for the New York side of the crime. So I go to Jersey, I think it might have been the Jersey City Police Department, and she's sitting there and they're trying to interview her, and she's very cagey. She doesn't want to give out a lot of information because she feels, well, if they go to her pimp, then she's going to give you the worst punishment. So I sat down and I spoke with her, and, I treated her as if she was a relative of mine. So I spoke to her in a kind manner, in a supportive manner. But I also said, listen, I need this information. I can tell you that we're not looking to, right now, we're not looking to go after your pimp right now, which would be your trafficker. Right now we're looking for the two guys that, brutally sexually assaulted you in New York at gunpoint and threw you out of the car, insulted you in the car, and threw you out of the car in New Jersey, through the tunnel. As they went through the tunnel, then afterwards they threw her out, pushed her out of the car. So when we worked with she got a license plate, very, very sharp girl. She got a license plate of the vehicle. So New Jersey tracked it down. We tracked it down. We went out there with Jersey police, and sure enough, there's the car parked in front of the building where one of the perpetrators lived. So we looked at the car first. We take a look inside. We already know what the victim looks like. The victim's hair is obviously in there. There's a piece of jewelry she described. It's on the seat. car's locked and you need to search warrant and everything for that. But we needed to go upstairs and find these two guys. Hopefully they're both there. Long story short, they let us into the apartment. We spoke to them for a little bit, and they made admissions that, in fact, that they did attack a girl in New York, and they did push her out of the car, but they took it. They were pretty. It came to them pretty easy. Like, it wasn't hard for them to tell. Like who cares, right? It's a prostitute. That's what they were thinking. Oh, I care. So, and the Jersey guys cared. So we went in there, and by the way, they had the guns on them in the apartments. We had to disarm them and everything. And those were the guns that were photographed and ID'd by the victim as the weapons that were used against her. And she was struck in the head. Talked to her, the fact that she knew that I was looking to get these two guys, and I'm not looking to get her into any trouble. She had to trust me. I mean, she knows me for 2 minutes, but you have to, if somebody knows you care, they're going to trust you. And she did. It took a while, but she did. So therefore, I already told you, we went to the car. We went, one more minute. We went to the car. We got the search went for the car. We got the hair. We got everything. Boom. They got locked up in Jersey because that's where they are right now. The next day, I go to my DA and say, I want an extradition order from Jersey because he committed worse crimes in New York. So I want him in New York. And the district attorney said, well, I'll do it tomorrow or something. I said, no, I need it done now. We need to do it now. I couldn't find a DA to do the extradition to get him over on that day. The next day, I get a call from Jersey. The two guys that attacked this girl killed a convenience store clerk, robbing a little gas station like they have in New York. At least it's a little gas station. They killed him and they took his money, but they were caught. And unfortunately, they were caught. But anyway, the bottom line of the whole story is this. She was a victim of trafficking. In order to get the trust of the victim of trafficking, you need to treat them as if they are a family member, and you need to talk to them, and you need to, their apprehension, her apprehension was the pimp was going to hurt her. But I was able to tell her that's not what we're looking to do right now, because we have two guys with guns that attacked you and threw you out of a car. So that's how she trusted me. So I'll leave the story there. I know it was quick, but I'll leave it there, and I'll leave the trust issue there. I want to thank all the experts and Dr. Watkins, who is a real expert here on all this stuff. And I want to thank you all for coming. And please pick up one of those information sheets outside, because if it doesn't have you and it has somebody else, or you can hand them out and give it, and it has all the numbers on it. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I took a little extra time.
It's okay. I wanted to say too, because many of you may not know this, John was the lead on the East Side Rapist case in New York City. John and I have been friends for a number of years. We have chapters published in textbooks together, and we share this passion for this work, and that's kind of how we come together. We have another colleague, Dr. Brent Turvey, and he's an international criminal profiler, and we're both friends with him and have worked with Brent, and so we published with Brent. And we feel like, and John actually has a published book of his own. It's on Amazon. It's on rape investigation. And if you ever want to look at it, it's really good. So I'm really proud to know John, and I know the work that he did in New York City. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I'm really excited to introduce you to our next panel expert. You're going to really enjoy him. This is Washington County Deputy Prosecutor Kevin Metcalf, Juris Doctorate. And thank you for being here. The question that we've got for Prosecutor Metcalf is, can you explain what grooming is in an abused and trafficked child and adolescent?
Thank you. Is this working? Okay. And I can't stand in one spot. So I'll start my clock here. So my specialty is where technology meets criminal behavior. I went through basic training in the Army in 1988, so I've been in one uniform or another, including a prosecutor's uniform since then. In explaining what grooming is, I've got three things I want to leave you with that relate to this. The grooming is the creation of trust, the illusion of trust. We're all familiar with the dirty uncle, when we were growing up, that would lure you in with candy to sit on his lap or something. There's this grooming, this creation of trust in order for them to get something of benefit at your expense. But the three things I want to hit on are kind of the status of children. I want to hit on a runaway loophole, and then I want to touch on some legislation here in this state that we're trying to get passed. So in the last 2 years or so, I've been in, I don't know, probably about 20 countries, including Afghanistan, Ukraine, Pakistan, Thailand. I've been in multiple countries. Interpol will pull me out to do these things. I'm trying to get more focused here in this state. But status of children. How many of you think you could go to your local sheriff or police chief and say, how many cars were stolen last month? How many houses were broken into? Do you think they can tell you? Oh, they can tell you, because that's our stuff. It's important. How many of you think you could go to one of those officials and say, how many missing kids are in your jurisdiction right now? How many of you think they can give you a number? No. How about foster kids that aren't where they're supposed to be? Can they give you a number? I can't tell you a single state out here who can. We measure in our society what we value. How much do you think we value childhood? How much do we value our children? So I want to leave you with this for grooming. Children are missing or they're not. One of the biggest things that we see in grooming are the labels, runaway, or you'll hear the term throwaway kid used a lot. It's just a throwaway kid. I'll take a report, I'll turn it in at the end of my shift. They ran away. That's their fault, their problem. So grooming, this illusion of trust, groomers know, because they share information better than law enforcement, they know how to get away with this. They know that if you groom a child, convince them that they have trust and that they should come stay with you for a little bit, that they're going to run away. And they'll tell them, leave a note, make sure everybody knows you're running away. What happens when a child is snatched out here? FBI comes out, National Guard, the military, helicopters, they don't want that. They want that child to run away because society will blame that child. Next, they know that law enforcement is now removed from the equation because running away is not a crime. Now, the Phoenix Police Department, if you want to go, just go look at there, it's online. It says right there, running away is not a crime. The responsibility for finding that child falls upon the parent or guardian of that child. So in the grooming process, predators groom children, tell them you need to run away, and they look for that gap in the grooming process. There's a natural gap that forms between parent and child as they grow up. Now, if you add something like anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, some of the eating disorders, that increases that gap, and that's where these predators will slide in, and they will make use of that, and they'll build this trust. I understand you. Parents at that point are so focused on their children and trying to protect them, they shut down communication, they monitor everything on their phones, which damages trust. So what we see with groomers is they actually listen. They listen to these kids. And that forms a very strong illusion of trust. So grooming to run away. Running away removes law enforcement. Now we've got foster kids, we've got runaway kids, we got reservation kids that are out here with no supervision, and they need resources. They need food, they need shelter. Who do you think gives them that? That's where the trafficking comes in. You get those kids under your control, and then we see organized retail crime. I've seen kids with a list. These Dooney and Burke purses, I remember some of the early ones, if you remember those. It's evolved to different things. I want you to go into Dillard's. Here's a list of things you steal. I mean, we also see them doing other things. We had a group come through here from Atlanta in a car that had printers. They would print checks off. They would go and pick up the homeless population and say, hey, I'll give you $100 if you'll go cash this $300 check. Who got prosecuted there? The homeless. Who gets prosecuted if these kids get caught? Pretty much the same thing that we've seen in sex trafficking or labor trafficking. The kids end up being the ones or the victims. You know, that mindset is changing, as you alluded to, which is a good thing. These are all victims. So this runaway loophole ties into the fact that when you see runaway, I absolutely hate that term, because these kids are being groomed to run away. So we got to get rid of this runaway loophole. Now, these bad guys are sharing this information on dark web. I've got one right now that talks about how do you identify a child, how do you groom a child, how do you abuse a child and avoid prosecution. These manuals are out here shared widely on the dark web. Another thing I wanted to hit on, I got a couple of minutes here. How do we avoid this? Now, you're all sitting here. You came here on your own, looking for information. You're not really the parents I'm talking to here, probably. The parents of these kids that are out here, that are throwaway kids, they're probably not going to show up to these things. A lot of them probably never wanted to have the kids. These kids are living in poverty. They're out here on the street. And everybody blames them because they're the runaway. They did it to themselves. That's one of the things I would really like to change, to get that mindset out. So, kids are missing or not. Let's get rid of this throwaway kid idea. Let's get rid of the foster kid idea. It's not their fault they're in foster care. So, missing or not. This is one of the things that I really, really hope we can get through society's head. The runaway loophole that I just explained to you, this is how the grooming process really hits our kids. These predators are grooming, get them to run away, removes law enforcement. Now nobody's looking for them. Now I can use them for whatever I want. Sex trafficking, labor trafficking, organized retail crime, whatever. I also like to thank, so my boss, Matt Durrett, has done a tremendous job in allowing me, not many state prosecutors get to go to 12 countries this year to go do counter human trafficking and counter exploitation. So we're trying to push the limits on what we're doing here. We also have your local senators, Bart, Josh, Representative Steve Unger, Clint Penzo are working on legislation. And I think that this all ties in together. How many of you would be surprised that you can legally, in the state of Arkansas, buy a child sex doll? Is everybody familiar with sex dolls? The adult version? You can get them really realistic looking. Would you be surprised that you could buy an 8-year-old version of a sex doll? It's only illegal in about 4 states. We failed twice to pass it here in the state of Arkansas. If I were you, I would want to know why. Child sex dolls. And these things, there's one here at the, do you guys have it? Or do you know? It may be Washington or Springdale. Actually, Springdale has it. They have a live one. If you guys want to see something incredibly creepy, you wouldn't be able to tell if this is a real child or not. And it is built for sexual performance. The other thing is artificial intelligence. AI-generated child sexual abuse material. So it's AI-generated child rape. One of the things, I know I've got about a minute. One of the things that AI allows us to do is to create realistic, you can't really tell, is this real or is it not? And one of the things my team really focuses on is child rescue based on child rape videos. We identify the child, we locate the child, we go into rescue. What's going to happen if we can't tell if that's a real child in there or not? And we are, I'm telling you, overwhelmed. We are barely scratching the surface of the kids that we see. what are we gonna do when we can't tell if it's a real child or not? We need legislation. So this is what I need you as citizens. This is a we the people moment. Who's responsible for all of this? We all are. We the people, right? So I need you guys to be aware. Child sex dolls, we need that legislation in this state. Contact your senators, contact your representatives. They are actively working. I am helping them. And Dennis Dean, Matt Durrett, we're all helping to form this legislation, but we're not getting it passed. Things are blocking this, and you guys should ask why. Why is this not passed? Because your senators and your representatives here are working on it. So to wrap up, kids are missing or they're not. We shouldn't have throwaway kids in this society. There's no such thing as other people's kids. They're all ours. And pay attention to your legislation. And if you need anything else, I'm always available. Thank you.
Thank you for the work you do. I know you're doing rescue missions and also working as a prosecutor, and I just hold the utmost respect for you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's go to the next slide. I'm really excited to introduce Natalia Metcalf. This is Kevin's wife. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know her. And she is an amazing, amazing woman. So we're going to start. Natalia, the question that you're going to be answering is, could you describe how a 12-year-old girl or boy may become groomed?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Here I am standing before you, and I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored, and forgive me, this is my first time speaking ever. And as a survivor, on my behalf, as a little child, once upon a time, I believed I believed in something good that was set for the world to believe in good. That's why you come here. You come to church to believe that there's something good waiting on the other side, right? You're here to. So now you hear me, okay? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm here today is my first time, and this is not something that comes easy to me. I wanted to say that I'm here to speak on behalf of the children who had no voice, as myself, as a survivor, as a little girl who I came to be insulted, assaulted, abused, raped, neglected, avoid the contact of talking to me, to reach out to me when I tried to speak my truth. My voice was not heard. And throughout my life, I've seen my friends, I've seen my family members were abused, and I don't find the right words to describe it. The pain that we go through entire life to find hope to live. Through those tribulations, I want to see good in people. I wanted to push those feelings aside. I don't want to be the victim anymore. I want to stand up for myself. I want to stand up for your kids. I want to stand up for your childhood that probably one of you here don't talk about it. Because I felt ashamed because somebody told me, you can't talk about it. You can't. This is not allowed. How dare you? You're going to ruin the family. I'm sorry. I'm suffering my entire life to be here, to fight for love, to be accepted, and to be nourished, to bring into the world something good. I'm no longer going to stand on the sideline and watch what's happening to our kids in the future, because they're our future. We are looking up to them. I learned a lot from my own kids. I'm so proud of them. And my story goes so deep, you're not going to believe it. That man over there, 23 years ago, saved me when I dialed 911. That's how we met. It's a true story. People was like, well, how did you guys met? This is how we met. Back then he was PD. He called back. I didn't speak English. He called back. I don't know, what do you expected to hear from the other side line when the other person doesn't speak the language? It must be his call to serve the community, to save children. I was a young lady, was coerced to come here. But that's another time for this story. I want to come and tell you that as a 12-year-old, when my uncle came, I was at his house watching his little girl. And I was asleep. Something doesn't come in mind that you wake up with that grown man all over your body and you don't have a clue what's happening to you. While his little girl, she was 6 years different, laying asleep right next to me. I feel through my bone all this feeling that you can't talk about it. I was in the cage. I couldn't express my feelings. And that's exactly the time when, as a 12-year-old, you develop physically. You become a lady. So they look at you as a subject matter for their own pleasure. They don't think how much damage they have done here to that child. I had to read so much. And as of yesterday, believe it or not, I confronted that family member. I confronted that because it took me so long to take that courage to find in me to speak. I confronted her and I said, why did you not believe me when I came to you that he did this to me? She said that she was lost. She didn't believe it. Now I'm telling her, as a grown woman, to have a closure of some sorts, because I knew I was going to speak. She invited me. Ms. Watkins, appreciate it. It's something does not come in mind when I said to her, I'm a grown woman now, and I wanted to tell you and ask you the same question. Why did you not did anything about? And you know what she said back? I knew that's coming. So you knew all this year, and you didn't say anything to me. Not one word. But something internally had to tell her, I still love you, because I know it's not your fault. You didn't know any better. I don't know, because I love her. I still love her. She showed me that nourishment as a mother role. Her touch, her look, the way she cooked with love and care. I didn't see it coming. She's still that beautiful woman, but she didn't believe me. Guess what's next? She said, I noticed when he started looking at his daughter, she said, I was going to kill him. So as Ms. McGaff was talking about it, just because it's not your child doesn't mean you can't do something about it. I called him last night, the night before. I was crying and I couldn't pull myself together, and he said, you did all you could do. You will get better. I'll be here and we'll do it together. Over the course of the years, I've learned you have to stand up, you have to fight, even if it's not your child. I'm not an expert. I'm just here, a little fish in that big sea that just wants to make a difference. even if it's just tiny. And there's so much more stories. You don't want to hear it. But I'm so proud I am today. I'm here 23 years ago. I'm speaking English and clear in mind, in my strength. I have friends, I have family. I have courage in me to speak up, to stand up for those kids who cannot speak for themselves. And I just want to say thank you to my dear husband. I love you dearly. I speak from my heart. Thank you for coming back for me. But there's so much more to our story. I can't talk about it. Not yet. But I'm going to be fighting for you kids. That's why we created nonprofits. That's why we fighting alongside with each other, with other teamers, with other believers that wants to make a difference. And thank you, Mr. Watkins, for meeting you, for talking me into this. I may not deliver it the way you expected. This is my step, my first step to make a little move. I'm gonna always be a student for life to make it better. So I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, for hearing me. It's not really about me. It's about those kids, and I was one of those children. So thank you.
I guess there's nothing more important to me than victims being healed. This is my passion. This is my calling. Natalia, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And I'm always here for you. One thing I do really well in my practice is I can walk through the fire with my patients for as long as it takes. God give me that. And I will speak up for them. I will go to court and testify for them. I've testified over 200 times in the state of Arkansas. And I've had a lot of people that don't like me because I speak up. But I will always do that. I will always defend these children. I'm honored to be your friend, Natalia. The next slide. I want to introduce Andy Wise. She's going to be talking about advocacy. Andy worked with me when I had a forensic clinic, and she really led the advocacy. It was incredible what she did for these kids that would come in. They'd been abused. She would go out to the school and meet with them and see what they need and take things to them. And then she got trained to do forensic interviews. And I don't know, she's done right around 300 forensic interviews, children, adolescents. So she really developed a passion for the work at that time. She runs my clinic now. She does an amazing job. Andy, I want to ask you, what is the role of a victim and patient advocate?
Hello. Can you hear me? How about now?
There.
Yes, the primary role of a victim advocate is emotional and social support. while also advocating for the rights of victims, of survivors. Some examples of things that advocates do, which really, I mean, whenever, we were doing forensic cases, the advocate, once they were done with their interviews, their exams, the advocate would be right there to start that rapport with the patient. And to support them, to show that, you are someone that is a comfortable person they can trust, that will not judge them. But, there are some basic things, of course, like seeking medical care is generally the first thing you're going to look for, which is, a lot of the time what's going on and how that, that happens when people report. Mental health needs, extremely important to get started as quickly as possible, and to help the survivor find a good competent counselor to help them with that. Also, maybe important to mention that an advocate is not a counselor. It is different. We do listen to survivors, whatever they need, but there's definitely a line where they're still going to need that trained mental health counselor. Establishing a safe contact system, helping them form a safety plan, documenting threats that they may get. That's one part of it. The other is kind of what she was talking about, securing basic resources, such as financial assistance, especially people that, or speaking of trafficking victims, people who have not been independent. We have to find a way to help them move on and have a life. So financial assistance, transportation, vocational training, employment, childcare. These are things that we look at. Sometimes they need more intensive treatment. We want to help them get into a program there. Maybe they don't have a place to live. We're going to help them find somewhere to rent, or some of these people are going to need transitional housing. So that's a thing. And it's like she was saying, there's one time I did drive 4 hours to spend a 30-minute lunch hour at school with a young lady. And then I drove 4 hours back. But, that feeling of knowing that I was there for her when she needed me, it doesn't matter how long that took, There was a little boy that reported at school, and we visited him, and he was sleeping on the floor. So we got a truck, and we went and got a mattress and a box spring, and we delivered it to their home. It's just like things like that you don't even think about when you think about like victims of crime and the sort of things they need. I mean, they need basic things that we all need. Another component is that advocates help survivors navigate the legal system. And sort of explain the process, help them through it. There are forms to fill out, such as victims' reparations forms. And also something important to note is that a lot of the time, victims of crime do not trust the legal system. So it is helpful to have someone there to say, hey, this is safe. I'm gonna help you and explain it and be there with you every step of the way. And all of these people are gonna be behind you. So, you want to be that safe person. You cannot be judgmental. There are a lot of dynamics. We want to help survivors know that they're protected. We want to help them, we want them to understand that they have rights. Each case is unique, and everyone needs something different, and something that's been touched on today a lot that I'm so glad, that this has changed, is that we need to help these survivors understand that they are victims. They're not criminals. They might have been coerced to do who knows what, but they were not in control of their lives at that time. Especially, speaking of, young people who it's like little kids don't go out on the streets and become a prostitute on their own, and there's just now a shift in society where people are realizing this. What else? There's also an important dynamic to understand is that there could be this is speaking of patience and the importance of being non-judgmental. There's often, sometimes a complicated relationship with someone who has been trafficked and they're a trafficker. There's a larger context of dependency, of loyalty, of care, of affection, like several people have touched on, that a lot of the times this person, you care about them, and maybe they don't necessarily want them to get in trouble, right? Or they might not in the beginning realize what, the danger they're in. And trafficking victims and other victims of violence, sometimes they return to their trafficker, to their abuser. Sometimes they do it more than once. So you have to really have patience, and you have to, get to know these people and understand the choices they've had to make. Another type of advocacy that I now do every day, advocating for mental health patients. Mental health is so important. We've spoken about it in the context of survivors of violence, but just we all deserve to have mental health care. We all deserve to have medical care in general. Something that I'm very passionate about. It is difficult enough to let yourself be vulnerable and ask for help, but then when you have to worry about how you're going to pay for it, or where you're going to go to get treatment, or how you're going to be treated, that's not okay. We all deserve that. And it's I spend a lot of time filling out paperwork. I talk to pharmaceutical companies. I talk to insurance reps. That's not very fun, but I cannot express the joy that I feel when it all works out and someone who needs it, who deserves it, gets that care that they're looking for. An example, I worked out a deal with a manufacturer recently, a patient who does not have insurance at all. They are covering their medications for an entire year. This person, to have this medication that is working so well and giving them, such a positive outlook, was $1,500 a month. This pharmaceutical company is giving it to them for free. So, things like, oh, thanks. Thank you. But it's just an example of things that an advocate would do. And also, there is advocacy in our community. We can all be advocates. We can all go out there and champion for these survivors and tell stories and help them when they're in need. Believe survivors. Believe them. Believe what they tell you. Listen to them. Let them know that you're not judging them. And so that's what an advocate do. What an advocate do. That's what an advocate does. We're just going to be there every step of the way for that survivor.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you for what you do for our patients. All right, let's go to the next slide. So at my clinic, the way I do things is I treat the mind, the body, and the spirit, because that's the whole person. And I believe that that's how we heal. So we got to look at all those dimensions. It's not just medical, it's not just psychological, but then we have this whole spiritual piece that's very important. And Oline Harvey has been involved in prison ministry, and she's worked as a chaplain, and she's worked with women that have been trafficked. And I wanted her to speak as an expert in this area. Can you explain, Oline, the spiritual aspects of healing from abuse and sex trafficking?
What I have found usually is when the woman has been sexually abused, they may still be in the lifestyle, the drug and their addiction, but they don't trust men. And so then when I come in as a chaplain and I listen to their backstory, and when you get their confidence, they will open up, but they don't even trust me on the start, much less are they willing to listen to about God that's a man. They don't understand that God is a gentleman. He does not force himself on them, but that he will be there for them in their hour of need.
I think it's really important with victims. Now, not every patient or victim is going to be receptive to it. I have patients that clearly say, you know, why did God let this happen to me? And God didn't rescue me. And so they have a very difficult view that God could help them in the future. So there's a lot of work on that end for the spiritual healing. And some absolutely will not take that piece of it. And I have to respect that when that's what they want. And others do. And I feel like that's when we have the better outcomes, because I've seen it. I want to thank this panel. As you can hear, these people are experts and they are passionate about what they do. And we are very fortunate to have them. If anybody in my family or myself was in trouble, these are the people that I want taking care of me. So I thank all of you, and they're all my friends. We're going to do something really fun. What time do we have? What's the time? Okay. So the first thing I want to do is say, no one is ever successful on their own. And so when you see someone that has accomplished something, they don't accomplish it on their own. You have to have support, and you have to have really good friends who believe in you. That's the reason I chose the song we played today. That was Crowder, Closer Than a Brother. And the people at this church, they're closer than a brother. And so I just want to thank the people on the front row and Dr. Murphy. They have worked, and Cindy Vega and Ray Vega. Cindy, I see you in the back. They have worked all week on getting us donations. They have been out, boots on the ground, telling businesses about what we're doing at Calvary. And we've got so many donations, and I cannot thank you enough. Katie and her mother, I mean, they just hit the ground running all week. I've never seen anything like it. And I just can't thank you enough for doing that for us. And everybody that's been of support. And Ray and Cindy Vega was just like, we'll do anything to help. And they've been boots on the ground as well. So we're going to do some drawings. We're pretty excited. Does anybody want to win a door prize? Right? Okay. All right. So, Dina, why don't you come up and pick a door prize that we're going to just pick one that's good that we're going to give away. Okay. The first name is James Kinnan. James Kinnan, you're our first winner. James is with the Washington County Sheriff's Department, and we just thank you so much for being here.
My joy.
Thank you. That's going to look really good on you.
My daughter weighs 85 pounds.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. That's great. Yeah, just pick what you want. See, I'm trying to be controlling here. I don't want to be controlling. Okay, the next name is Linda Bond. Linda Bond, come on up and get a prize. And thank you for taking your time to be here today. Isn't that just amazing? Okay, the next name is Brianna Reppert. Come on up, pick a prize. I would always pick the candy, absolutely. Okay, our next name is Brenda Freeman. Brenda Freeman. Awesome. The next name is Dawn Burfin. Okay. David, would you like to pick out a gift for him? They're best friends, so that's why I asked David to do that.
Got lipstick up here?
I think there's a makeup kit somewhere. There you go. Woo. The next name is Bob Magara. Hi, Bob. Wonderful. The next name is Retta Fox. Retta Fox. Okay, I'm going to need some help. Ooh.
Is it? It kind of looks like Ray Vega. Is it? Or what?
It's Ray Vega. Ray Vega, come on up. It's kind of scribbled. I couldn't read it. Ray Vega. Ray, thank you for all you did this week. To you and Cindy, thank you. You're amazing. Okay, the next name is, oh my gosh, I really didn't mean to do this. Cindy Vega. Cindy Vega. Woo! We got a lot of donations this week. We're very, very grateful. Yeah, it is. You're great. And we've got gift certificates, we've got restaurant certificates, we've got hair salon certificates. So we've got lots of stuff. The next name is Kaylina. Kaylina? Okay, while you're looking, the next person is Linda Harrison. Linda Harrison. The next name is Arlene Magara. Hi, Arlene. Thanks for coming today. The next name is Don George. Brother Don. The next name is Ashley Reppert. The next name is Vera George. We just love